Welcome back. Today is going to be a super important video, and I think is the most interesting video as well. And we are going to be going over AMD as well as quarterly theory. I'm sure you guys are interested in what that means. I hope that most of you guys are still watching because I am quite literally spending all my time making these videos for you guys for free. So let's get into it. What is AMD and what is quarterly theory? Let's start with AMD first, okay? Because quarterly theory is pretty much AMD. So market, again, remember, moves three ways: consolidation, uptrend, downtrend. Okay? What is quarterly or not quarterly? What is AMD? AMD stands for accumulation, which is consolidation, manipulation, and distribution. You always see my 9:30 a.m. model. Wait for the manipulation. Wait for the manipulation. What is the manipulation? A manipulation is the fake move before the real move, and typically happens after accumulation. So let's say, for example, we're looking at a chart right here, and we see we have our accumulation, we have our manipulation, taking out liquidity or tapping into a fair value gap, something. It manipulates into something. You can't just take a random leg and call it manipulation. Manipulation has to manipulate into something before we enter the enter the distribution phase, okay? Here, all right? It can also look like this: accumulation, manipulation, and distribution, okay? Why is this useful? When we have a manipulation and we head into the distribution phase, it is very unlikely that we're going to come back into manipulation because that's the fake move. Why would price want to come back to the fake move? It doesn't. So that's why we like to wait for a manipulation into a higher time frame, taking out liquidity grab into a higher fair value gap or order block to fill orders and make the actual move. If price were to make the actual move right away, it wouldn't have enough liquidity or power. Okay? Great. How do we see this on the chart? Let's go to today. Today, we had our consolidation right here. Sorry, right here. Let me mark it out. All is consolidating. Price isn't really moving, right? Price is not moving. We get our manipulation right here. And then we get our distribution right here. So this is what I mean by today when I was saying wait for the manipulation today. We have it right here. And inside of an AMD is another AMD. As you know, price is fractal. So let's say we go on the 15 second. On the 15 second inside the manipulation, we have consolidation. And then this right here created an SMT. So we have our liquidity sweep on ES. So this right here would have been our accumulation. The SMT on ES would have been our manipulation to grab liquidity. And then this would have been our distribution. Okay? Pretty simple. You see it after, let's say, right here as well. We have our accumulation phase right here. We then manipulate and take out liquidity right here, tapping into, I believe it was a 1 minute fair value gap. So this right here is our manipulation. And then we have our distribution lower. Nice. Here is another example. Accumulation, manipulation, distribution. And technically, it's more than just AMD. It's called AMD X. What does the X stand for? The X could either stand for expansion after our distribution, where we continue to head lower. Let's say the distribution was here. The X stands for expansion. We could either expand, or when we distribute, the X could also stand for reversal. So we come back into the range of either 50% or we just come fully back into the range of the distribution phase. Now, why do I say AMD X and not just AMD? It's because what is called quarterly theory, okay? You can definitely search up YouTube on it. There's definitely a lot more sauce. I'm just covering the really basics part, okay? Quarterly theory is, in the market, it's based off of time, okay? Let's take, for example, the daily quarterly theory. We have 5 days in the market: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, okay? Monday is typically accumulation. Tuesday is usually the manipulation. Wednesday is typically the distribution. And Thursday is either the reversal or the continuation. And Friday is something by itself. Okay, how do you see this in the chart and how could you use it to your bias? Let's take, for example, this right here. Let's take this week from Monday to Friday. So we're just looking at right here. Okay, now you see it on the chart. Monday, we have our accumulation. We can see that there's not a big movement right here. Tuesday, we have our manipulation where price manipulates lower, takes out the liquidity. So we have our manipulation formed on Tuesday. So we can expect Wednesday or Thursday to head higher. As you can see, Wednesday was bullish and Thursday was bullish. Friday is a thing by itself. Okay, same thing with right here. Let's take, for example, on the 15-minute, okay? Because even on the 15-minute, this can work. Actually, I'm getting too ahead of myself. Let's do another daily. Let's take this one, for example. Again, this is a theory, so it doesn't always mean that it would work, all right? Let's say we have here, let's take, for example, right here. This isn't the greatest example, but quarterly theory. Mondays are accumulation. This just sets off the week. Tuesday, we have our manipulation upwards. So we can see that the fake move is towards the highs, okay? So Tuesday, we have our fake move. Wednesday, we come back up, but we start distributing lower. And then Thursday, we have our expansion. As you can see, we expand lower. All right? Nice. So that's pretty much quarterly theory. There's a daily. So on the quarterly theory with the weekly quarterly theory, it's Monday accumulation, Tuesday manipulation, Wednesday is the distribution, and Thursday is the X, okay? For the monthly, yearly time frame, let's do month first. For the monthly, it's by week. So the first week will be the accumulation. The second week will be the manipulation. The third week will be the expansion. And we can see right here. Let's see if we can find a nice example here. Obviously, this doesn't always play out because it's a theory, all right? And if it's a theory, it doesn't always work. But this is a nice example. Let's take, for example, the month of January. January, the first week is our accumulation. It sets the month. Tuesday, or not Tuesday, the second week, we have this manipulation that takes out the previous week. What do you expect to see Wednesday if we took the high manipulation on the second week? We will expect the third week to be our distribution lower. As you can see right here on the third week, we distribute lower. And then Thursday is either the expansion or the reversal. And we see Thursday reverses back in. Friday is the fourth week is a thing where you expand and reverse. And then there is no fifth week. It's always 4 weeks. Sorry if I'm just going off of my words. Yearly quarterly theory, okay? On the yearly quarterly theory, it is separated between the 12 months. So the first 3 months are accumulation. The second 3 months, you get the point. Manipulation, things like that. So let's take, for example, on the month right here, we have our first 3 months right here. we have our accumulation, and obviously this is hard to tell, but this hasn't happened yet. So let's take last year or something. Okay, so we have here the first, let's see, all the way till around August or so. So the first 6 months, we have our accumulation and our manipulation here. Okay, all this move is part of the first part of AMD AM. So this is accumulation, manipulation, lower before making the actual move of the manipulation higher, or not manipulation, distribution higher. Damn, I suck at talking right now, but I hope you're kind of getting the point. Again, this is a theory. Last but not least, our sessions quarterly theory. So let's take our sessions today. Let's see if it plays out. Okay, so typically your Asia and London sessions are going to be your accumulation phase. London can have a manipulation phase if it does have enough volume, but usually it doesn't. The manipulation phase usually happens in the morning session of the New York AM, specifically from the 9:30 to around 10:30 or so. Afterwards, it is the distribution phase I can see right here. Let's take, for example, this one right here. Accumulation, we have our manipulation going into New York AM, and then we get our distribution. Okay, next, let's take this again. Accumulation, we manipulation in the first half of the New York AM, and then we distribute. Okay, accumulation, manipulation in the first half or so, distribution, reversal. Again, accumulation, this isn't really good because this was during news time, so it doesn't really work. We can take this. Accumulation, this kind of, I guess you could call it manipulation because it did grab Asia session, but accumulation, first half is the manipulation, and then we distribute lower, and then we reverse. Okay, so that's pretty much quarterly theory. I don't really trade it too much. It's just a theory. There is a lot of other YouTubes out there if you want to take a look at that, but my main focus is on the AMD part, where my model plays in with the manipulation. So let's take, for example, let's use AMD again, and let's do it on the model on, let's say, Monday. Okay, Monday, I like to mark out the 9:30. 9:30. As you can see, after 9:30 opens, we have our accumulation. We have a manipulation lower, creating an SMT, as well as a tapping into this balanced price range right here. So we have our manipulation done, and then we have our distribution, and then our reversal back in. So you could have done you could have entered off of knowing the manipulation leg is done, because we're entering back into the accumulation range and tapping the 9:30 in our distribution leg. So this is kind of what I mean by when I say wait for the manipulation. Why is this not a manipulation? Is because during this manipulation, we did not sweep any sell side liquidity, we did not tap into any higher time frame fair value gap, PD array, so this is very weak, and it's just a regular move. This right here is a manipulation because we get an SMT, we take out liquidity, we tap into a fair value gap, higher time frame 5-minute order block, so we have movement. Okay, great. What I want you guys to do now is to go on your chart, use my 9:30 AM model. If you don't know what that is yet, I haven't posted it yet in the bootcamp, but check out the YouTube if you want to just get ahead of yourself. You already know all the concepts, and just test out, see how AMD plays out. If you're interested in quarterly theory, please feel free to search that up on YouTube. There's a lot of info out there on it, but again, just to warn you, it's just a theory. Hope you like this video. I love AMD, and I'll see you in the next one.